Well, that happened. The Cardinal season is over. Unceremoniously punished 34-11 on the road against the Los Angeles Rams. There's going to be a lot more uncomfortability than comfortability this offseason, free agency, front office, coaching staff. Kyler Murray, we're going to be along for the ride with you. Alex Clancy, Bo Brock, Locked on Cardinals. Let's break it down.
You are Locked on Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I mean, I could say Rise Up Red Sea, but I'm not going to mean it. Alex Clancy, Bo Brock, Locked on Cardinals. Thanks for making Locked on Cardinals your first listen every day, free and available on all platforms this entire offseason, which starts right now as the Cardinals get embarrassed on Monday Night Football in front of the whole NFL world. 34-11. This game was never in question. They were down 21-0 at halftime. The Cardinals didn't show up physically, emotionally, mentally, whatever. And this is where we're at with a lot more questions than answers. Pretty much where we were going into the 2021 season. The Cardinals just have 11 more wins under their all-time record. Bo, listen, you've been the level-headed one of the two of us throughout this roller coaster of a journey. We were texting back and forth throughout the game. You know, there wasn't a whole lot of positivity coming out, obviously, because of what we were witnessing. Seems like the Cardinals didn't show up for 4 quarters. Initially, in your head, aside from feeling, frustrated that we're not going to get to watch the Cardinals play another game this year, what were you most aggravated about? Like, if you could blame one thing, like, what was going through your head when it finally stopped spinning after what we witnessed for 60 minutes on Monday night?
To kind of put a kind of a broader approach, it's the Arizona Cardinals not showing up again. I mean, we haven't seen them play a good football game since Dallas, and then before that, we hadn't seen them play a good football game since Chicago. I mean, just this is how the game started for the offense, Alex. It goes punt, 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 interception for a touchdown, interception, punt. That's the end of the half. That's unacceptable. I mean, that's exactly why they got their doors blown off by the Los Angeles Rams. They embarrassed the state of Arizona. They embarrassed the organization. They embarrassed the fan base. And they did it in front of the damn Manning brothers, which is, in my mind, it's unacceptable. When you're sitting there and you're turning on the Manning cast, and you got Larry Fitzgerald on there who refuses to say that he's retired. He'll say everything but that he's retired. And then the Arizona Cardinals are just absolutely, the wheels are falling off in the 2021-2022 season. Like it was a hot out of the gates, and at the end of the season, the wheels fell off. There are so many questions remaining for this organization, so many questions and not a whole lot of answers, and a huge, crazy, busy offseason on tap. Because I think there was one big question that kind of came out of Monday night. Your franchise quarterback. Something that a lot of people, the majority, I know there's a lot of people, there are people that doubt Kyler Murray because of his size. He's a non-traditional quarterback. They've seen performances that they're not happy with. But the majority of the fan base went into Monday night thinking, without a shadow of a doubt, that they had a solution at franchise quarterback. And I think after the performance on Monday night, there are a lot of people doubting that. Hey, is this someone that we can win with?
Yep. And it's completely valid. It's completely rational. And, that's something that we're going to have to discuss throughout the offseason, and it's something that obviously there is no answer to. We're going to find out at the end of next year, but it's like, I mean, you're going to extend them. Like, I mean, we've got so much time. We've got so much time to talk about that. I don't think personally that he's gotten a whole lot of help, guidance, leadership, in my opinion. I don't think he's gotten a whole lot of guidance and leadership to take him to the next level. I've always said that Jared Goff would win because of Sean McVay and now Matt Stafford. Kyler Murray wins in spite of Cliff Kingsbury. I truly do believe that. But it's not all on Cliff Kingsbury that Kyler Murray played like Garbaggio tonight or like on Monday night. He did. He did not. He was a deterrent to the Cardinals winning as opposed to a catalyst. He was a deterrent to the Cardinals staying in the game as opposed to being the catalyst, which is what the Cardinals needed him to be. Sure, DeAndre Hopkins was out. The offensive line played terribly compared to what we'd seen so far throughout this season, where they were one of the strengths of the Arizona Cardinals. We're going to talk about Cliff Kingsbury this offseason. We're going to talk about Steve Keim this offseason. Like, there's so many things that need to be discussed. But first, from Monday night, that is a team that the first half of Seattle and the full entire playoff game were absentee landlords in place of players. They were not there. And that's not unfair. That's what we watched. And that's something like, who do you blame that on? You can play the blame game on a lot of things. Usually, the coach gets blamed for that because he doesn't have him up for the game. There's not enough preparation time. There's too many cell phone breaks, too many fruit carts, or whatever Cliff Kingsbury does. And I don't know if that's necessarily fair, but that's usually the storyline after a trash box game that we watched. That's usually who gets looked at first. That's fair, right? It's usually the coach and the quarterback that get looked at first.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's, and listen, these are uncomfortable conversations we're going to have. I mean, again, this is going to be the offseason of uncomfortability. The Cardinals could look like a expansion team again, compared to what they look like now with all the players that have expiring contracts.
Yeah. Look, nobody's safe. I'm pointing into the camera and I'm pointing at everybody in the organization. Nobody's safe.
Sucker.
And we're going to have, because everybody is it's a whodunit, and everybody is a suspect. And as far as why the Arizona Cardinals were murdered on Monday nights, it's Steve Keim. I mean, you could look and point at the general manager for how he built the offensive line and how it was a turnstile. And Kyler Murray was in the face of pressure every single down. There was a big play because when you thought, and getting back to kind of Kyler Murray a little bit, and I want to I don't want to harp on Kyler Murray because I'm going to say that he had a horrible game, and I'm not going to be the ones in the corner of saying he's not a franchise quarterback because I think he has every bit of talent that it's going to take to do that. But they get the ball to start the game. He could have put the team on his shoulders and found a way to get it done, right? He didn't elevate his game. The defense forces a punt on their first series. The offense comes out, goes 3-and-out again. They had 4 straight 3-and-outs. And every single one of those was a missed opportunity from this quarterback that we all believed could be an MVP caliber player that just didn't. He was a no-show. And that was a big problem for the Arizona Cardinals. And, you look at the 2020 draft and, Isaiah Simmons, what was his impact? He barely got on the field in the first couple series of this game. His play had kind of fallen off outside of that Dallas game. You look at drafting a linebacker in the first round in back-to-back seasons when, what's going on with the offensive line, in protecting your number one asset in Kyler Murray. And there's just so many different ways and so many places you can point to that could be, the reason for their lack of success. It's interesting. It's got legs, and I know who you want to point at, and I know who you want to blame. But I think this is a huge, just bigger problem in the organization. There's a stench coming from it right now. Yeah.
Alex Clancy, Bulldog, Locked On Cardinals on this Rainbow and Butterfly edition of Locked On Cardinals come Tuesday after their season was unceremoniously punished into the ground by Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford et al. Now, the thing is, the defense didn't play that bad. We're going to talk about the defense next because even though they put up a 30-burger against the Cardinals, the defense wasn't the problem as much as it seemed like it was. Alex Clancy, Bulldog, Locked On Cardinals. BetOnline.ag. I'll bet you that there isn't a line for the Cardinals game next week because they ain't playing. But if there were, BetOnline.ag would be happy to welcome you into a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond for all the other teams not named the Arizona Cardinals. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the betting, sports wagering, all the best sports wagering action for 2022. It's the new year. They've got a new interface, new mobile device, whatever. Go to the website or use your mobile device today to receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit using promo code LOCKEDON. Go to the website or use your mobile device today. Receive a 50% welcome bonus with promo code Locked On to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. This sucks. Second segment, Locked On Cardinals. Alex Clancy, Bo Brock. Follow him at Bob Brock. Follow me at Clancy's Corner. All joking aside, thank you to everybody who's continued along this journey with us. We mean it. All the halftime shows, all the post-game shows, Bo and I yelling at each other. It's like, this is the best half an hour of my day every day. And I know that Bo has a kid and a wife. This is his best 30 minutes also. Don't let him say things otherwise. Don't worry, nobody's listening. I know, 30. I know.
Update for you real quick, because this guy was public enemy number one. Just brutal play from last night's game. Budda Baker knocked out of the game. He was ruled out with a concussion. He went to the hospital for more examinations. And, Cam Akers, after the play, just completely disrespectful, looked like a complete loser as he kind of taunted Budda Baker, didn't show any kind of remorse. But finally, after the game, he tweeted out, prayers up to Budda. I didn't know he was hurt after the play, but I have nothing but respect for him. And all right, we can just squash that. As for as much as the Rams were dominating that game, they're very annoying to watch. They seem very classless to me. They do. I mean, Aaron Donald was choking DJ Humphries, and all he got was a personal foul penalty. I mean, that's absurd to me. You saw on the telecast, he literally had his hand on DJ Humphries' throat, and he's just, flag, whatever. It's just, and they were up big in both those moments. I just didn't like what I saw for the Rams, but that could also just because they peed in my Cheerios too by destroying the Cardinals season.
Gross. Yeah, no, I mean, let's shift to the defense here. You know, we talked during the pregame show about Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham scores a touchdown. Odell Beckham looked great. He's a wide receiver
third down catch. Yeah. Well, I mean the touchdown was on third down, and then the next drive, huge play on third down.
Yeah, coming across the middle.
They cashed it at the next play.
Yeah, and at one point he had more passing yards than Kyler Murray. Blah 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 blah. The thing is about like Odell Beckham, I kind of root for him now. Like ever since he went to Cleveland, because he kept his mouth quiet. He tore his ACL on a tackle after an interception by Baker Mayfield, tore his ACL, came back. He was kind of quiet. They let him go. They sent him to the Rams, and the dude has 7 touchdowns in 10 games with them or something, including Monday night. Like the dude's a wide receiver 3 in one of the better offenses in the league. Cooper Kupp was held under wraps for the majority of the game. I think he had 50 total yards or something right around there. Like the defense overall. Okay. The Cardinals went 3 and out. So it was first 4, you said? They went 3 and out the first 3 times, the first 3 drives in a game for the first time, thank you, Ed Werder, since 2016. Okay. So even in 2018, during that crapbox 16 weeks of watching Cardinals football, the Cardinals didn't go 3 and out to start a game 3 times in a row. So the offense didn't aid them with any sort of help. They were on the field for 11 minutes and 10 seconds of the first quarter, the Cardinals were defense. They only gave up 7 points. The pick 6 kind of threw them behind the 8 ball. Like the defense played fine, but you have to play a different style of defense when you're down 21-0 in a playoff game and then 28-0 after the first drive of the second half. A lot of third down breakdowns, like Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins just aren't there. I don't know how much. Say we're doing the blame pie, Bo, and it tastes gross, so don't try it. How much the blame pie goes to Vance Joseph in the entirety of the season? I know that he's been a hot button name, just like last year. He was a summa cum laude, and then he was a dropout. Compared to what people thought first half of the season to the second half. How much of this would you put on Vance, or is this kind of just an elixir where both are kind of at fault in their own ways with him and Cliff?
In his own way, he was at fault because you saw him obviously have to deal with not having the same personnel that he started with, and he didn't make any adjustments. He was like, I'm gonna run my scheme, and I'm gonna run my scheme, and I'm gonna run my scheme, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Or it seemed like there was that type of stubbornness and reluctancy to do that. I think that a loss like Monday night falls on the entire organization's shoulders. And if you want to bake a blame pie, yeah, he has his own significantly big slice in it for sure. But I think Cliff Kingsbury has the biggest slice of that pie. He's in there too, and Steve Keim as well. And then you can put the field as far as the rest of the roster goes. The defense. I agree with you. They were put in tough situations. There were short fields because the Cardinals couldn't flip the field, and it wasn't Andy Lee's fault. It was because the offense just got nothing. The second drive. How tired were you? It's like you put this old dog out of misery. How tired were you of watching AJ Green and Christian Kirk and Rondell Moore, just these miscommunications? That ball that Kyler Murray threw on third down that fell harmlessly to the turf between Rondell Moore and Christian Kirk. I mean, that could have changed.
That was a touchdown.
This entire game.
Yeah, that was a touchdown.
I mean, that was when the game was 0-0. The Cardinals could have taken a 7-0 lead with that play. And it's just like that play was a microcosm, at least offensively,
of the second half of the season.
Yeah, exactly. and it's like with the right receiver, I know second round pick Rondell Moore is going to come back because he's under contract for the next 3 more seasons. But Christian Kirk's a free agent, AJ Green's a free agent. It's just like I'd rather just roll the dice with anybody else at this point. It's just like I know they can make plays, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, you can't rely on them on any given play to come up with the big catch or to move the chains or anything. It just you couldn't rely on the only person you could rely on was out because he just had his knee cut into.
Yeah,
DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is still kind of we're recording this right after the game. Okay, so we're still kind of. Our thoughts are kind of all over the place here. The post-game great. Thank you for everybody who joined us for the post-game knee-jerk reaction pod on YouTube. It's a lot to process right now. It's actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually happened. The catastrophic ending to the season happened how everybody hoped it wasn't going to, but everybody said, well, they have 1 more week. Well, they have 1 more week. Well, it's the playoffs. Well, they made the playoffs. Well, they made the playoffs. Now what? We're going to give our first taste into what the offseason may look like. We're going to keep it very macro. We're going to keep it very short. But it's part of this. It's part of this reaction to the Cardinals just getting absolutely embarrassed in front of all of the NFL. All of the NFL. Every single of the NFL. Alex Clancy, Paul Brock, Locked On Cardinals. People think unusual circumstances mean complicated taxes. But for TurboTax Live experts, that's what makes things interesting. They're nerds like Bo. Maybe you inherited a condo and are renting it out, or maybe you're getting paid in crypto and aren't sure how it's taxed. For TurboTax Live experts, an interesting life can mean an even greater refund. Luckily, TurboTax Live can match you with the right experts who have experience in your unique situation and can answer all of your tax questions right from your phone or computer. They can even take care of the whole filing process for you, which is awesome. Whether you launch your own startup or you're working multiple jobs and juggling multiple incomes, an experienced TurboTax Live expert can help you during the entire filing process or do your taxes for you from start to finish to get you the tax deductions you deserve. Visit TurboTax.com to learn more. You do your thing. They've got your taxes. Intuit TurboTax Live. Final segment on this melancholy Tuesday podcast, Locked On Cardinals. Bo and I promise you a couple things. One, we're going to be with you every day. We're going to be with you every day this offseason. 5 days a week. That's what we're going to do. We'll revisit in July, but Bo and I like doing this podcast. So 25 minutes a day really is no sweat for us. Kyler Murray regressed the second half of this season for the second year in a row. You can say what you want about injury. He regressed two second halves of 2 seasons in a row. Cliff Kingsbury has yet to win an important NFL game. Truth. Vance Joseph looks to become more and more of a scapegoat every time the Cardinals lose. I don't know if that's warranted. Should Steve Keim still have a job? What free agents should the Cardinals or what players that are currently on the roster should the Cardinals re-sign? because there's a boatload of them. There's
Yeah.
a lot of conversations that need to have. These are really going to be the 5 before we get to drafts and everything. Those are really going to be the 5 topics. And you know what? Is Kyler the guy? I mean, I feel like that's the easiest question to answer as of now. If Cliff Kingsbury's getting this leash, Kyler Murray should get double, in my opinion. But that's something, again, that I feel like Bo and I are going to agree on, but it's a conversation that needs to be discussed, at least, from what we've seen the second half of 2 seasons in a row.
We have our conversation with the qualifiers of what the reality we live in, right? That Steve Keim is the general manager, and we try to, play these glorified weather forecasters of what direction either we would go or what direction we think Steve Keim's going to go, or what we think Cliff Kingsbury's going to do schematically with the offense, or what he's actually going to do. So with that being said, like that's how we're going to approach the offseason. Like there's the reality we live in, and then what we think the team should do and what they're actually going to do. I think if the team and they can make a move today. Like I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Like a head could roll. There could be a scapegoat. Vance Joseph, he doesn't deserve to leave, even though his defense didn't perform.
Right.
I don't think Cliff Kingsbury deserves to leave. I know you disagree with that, and I'll let you pile on if you want. But here's what I'll say. If Cliff Kingsbury remains the head coach of this team, the number one priority this offseason is
an offensive coordinator.
Exactly.
Yes.
You have to have somebody in there that is going to even challenge. He's going to challenge Cliff Kingsbury, because there isn't enough disagreement. It's not like this podcast. There's not enough debate. There's not enough people that are pushing Cliff Kingsbury as far as what they should be doing offensively in that locker room, in that organization. And I think you have to find a play caller. And Sean McVay even he got himself an offensive coordinator. And I think that should be even bigger than some of the going after some big name free agents or retaining your free agents or whatever, or who you're drafting the first round. I think that should be a top priority, because this is it. Like this is the biggest year in off season and next season for Kyler Murray. And it could be make or break for that, because like I said, there was a lot of questions that came after the performance from your franchise quarterback after last night's performance. So, and also Steve Keim, who knows? We could see Steve Keim be shown the door. I don't think so, because I think Steve Keim has taught Michael Bidwell everything he knows about team building. And I don't know if he would be bold enough to fire a guy that he's worked with for over 20 years.
Yeah, and that's problem number one. I mean, the cronyism, the nepotism, it's nepotism at this point is real. That was well put. I don't. It's a lot to process right now. Like that's not a cop out. It's like the thing is though, and we'll talk about this. These are macro topics. If you're going to bring in an offensive coordinator, what's Cliff Kingsbury's purpose?
Look, and that's fair. And I think and everybody who and everybody's going to call me like this Cliff Kingsbury. I'm really not. It's just I'm going against one of the bigger Cliff Kingsbury detractors of all time, and you. But like, do I think that he should have been the guy that be hired in the first place? No, probably not. He was a failure as a college head coach. Like what you're asking for is going to take an incredible amount of patience, and by the time that you get him potentially up to speed, you've got Kyler Murray's rookie contract. It's ending, and then you're going to have to invest the amount of money that you have to invest in a franchise quarterback, which is going to take up close to 20% of your salary cap. And then you're going to have to rely on your GM, who isn't that good at drafting, to build a roster with not a lot of money. And it's just like, I don't know how you do it.
Oh man, it's something we never thought that we'd be discussing right now. I mean, if things don't get better, the franchise tag's in play. Yeah. like there are things that I mean, I think we're still in a believe Kyler Murray stance now, right? Or no? Yeah. I mean, are you?
No. Like here's where I am with. I'm completely critical of his performance on Monday night. It was shameful. It was awful. It was terrible. But do I still believe he has the ability to be a franchise quarterback? Absolutely. And I don't think that like people have bad games. People go into slumps. He wasn't great down the stretch. He was terrible on Monday night, but he still has the skill set and the ability to be the guy that everybody thought he was going to be when they drafted him number 1. And he was the offensive rookie of the year. And he took the step forward in year 2. And he looked like he did at the beginning of the season. Like, yeah, it's not over. Like, I don't even think we're going to be dealing with like a Carson Wentz situation or a Jared Goff where he's going to regress horribly in the next, 12 to 18 months. I think he'll be fine. If anything, he could use this as a something to learn from, because I don't think Kyler Murray, outside of losing to Alabama in the college football playoff, has faced failure like he did on Monday night.
No, he didn't. He hasn't. And it was terrible. I mean, it was terrible. Alex Clancy, Bo Brock, Locked On Cardinals. Follow him at Bob Rack. Follow me at Clancy's Corner. Thank you to everybody who's been on this journey with us for the regular season. We're starting back at square one, baby. Doesn't mean we're going anywhere. Any last words on what we saw Monday night?
Nobody should feel easy cleaning out their locker. I know we probably won't. I know that this team has been pretty transparent with the media, starting with like Jordan Hicks talking about how he wanted to be traded out of the desert in training camp. I hope the trend use as they do exit interviews and we get maybe some answers for some of the questions that we have. I mean, nothing's going to fully, satisfy us with how things ended against the Los Angeles Rams. But, you hope to hear in the next day or two as this team exits, their facility in Tempe and cleans out their locker rooms, what really went wrong and where there's a disconnect. And if it is the coaching staff and that's revealed, we'll have that conversation. But I'm excited to get in the offseason. I love the offseason just as much as I love the regular season, if not more. We'll do mock draft Mondays is early. I think it's this Monday. We'll probably release our first mock draft. And then we'll start to look at a lot of there's a ton of players that might have played their last downs for the Arizona Cardinals. Some guys that you've been cheering for the last couple of years, Chase Edmonds, Christian Kirk, Chandler Jones, and then guys in the short term, and James Conner, AJ Green, and Zach Ertz, and the list goes on. And then, of course, we got to talk about Kyler's extension. I mean, my God, and I really want to do a podcast.
I shouldn't have asked you.
I really want to do a podcast, and you probably just want to go to bed because we're doing this late.
I shouldn't have asked you.
I want to do a case for Cliff Kingsbury. I want to do a case against Cliff Kingsbury, where we're both, and we'll do an episode each. Case against Cliff Kingsbury, the case for Cliff Kingsbury. And then we could probably do one for Steve Keim too.
Cool. How much time you got?
How much time 30 minutes a day.
Free and available on all platforms. Alex Clancy, Bo Brock, Locked On Cardinals. We'll talk to you tomorrow.